David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, Chapter 18, A Retrospect. My school days, the silent gliding on of my existence, the unseen, unfelt progress of my life from childhood up to youth. Let me think as I look back upon that flowing water, now a dry channel, overgrown with leaves, whether there are any marks along its course, by which I can remember how it ran. I am not the last boy in the school. I have risen in a few months over several heads. But the first boy seems to me a mighty creature, dwelling afar off, whose giddy height is unattainable. Agnes says, "No," but I say, "Yes." I hold him up in a reverential respect. But who is this that breaks upon me? This is Miss Shepherd, whom I love. Miss Shepherd is a boarder at Mrs. Nettlegal's establishment. I adore Miss Shepherd. She is a little girl in a spencer with a round face and curly flaxen hair. For some time I am doubtful of Miss Shepherd's feelings, but at length, fate being propitious, we meet at the dancing school. I have Miss Shepherd for my partner. I touch Miss Shepherd's glove and feel a thrill go up the right arm of my jacket and come out at my hair. I say nothing tender to Miss Shepherd, but we understand each other. Miss Shepherd and myself live but to be united. Why do I secretly give Miss Shepherd 12 Brazil nuts for a present, I wonder? They are not expensive. They are not expressive of affection. They are difficult to pack into a parcel of any regular shape. They are hard to crack, even in room doors, and they are oily when cracked. Yet, I feel that they are appropriate to Miss Shepherd. Soft, seedy biscuits also I bestow upon Miss Shepherd, and oranges innumerable. Once I kiss Miss Shepherd in the cloakroom. Ecstasy. Miss Shepherd being the one pervading theme and vision of my life. How do I ever come to break with her? I can't conceive. And yet a coolness grows between Miss Shepherd and myself. Whispers reach me of Miss Shepherd having said she wished I wouldn't stare so, and having avowed a preference for Master Jones. For Jones, a boy of no merit whatever. The gulf between me and Miss Shepherd widens. At last, one day, I meet the Mrs. Nettlegal's establishment out walking. Miss Shepherd makes a face as she goes by and laughs to her companion. All is over. The devotion of a life, it seems a life, it is all the same, is at an end. I am higher in the school, and no one breaks my peace. I am not at all polite now to Miss Nettlegal's young ladies. I think the dancing school a tiresome affair, and wonder why the girls can't dance by themselves and leave us alone. I am growing great in Latin verses, and neglect the laces of my boots. Dr. Strong refers to me in public as a promising young scholar. Mr. Dick is wild with joy, and my aunt remits me a guinea by the next post. The shade of a young butcher rises, like the apparition of an armed head in Macbeth. Who is this young butcher? He is the terror of the youth of Canterbury. There is a vague belief abroad that the beef suet with which he anoints his hair gives him unnatural strength, and that he is a match for a man. He is a broad-faced, bull-necked young butcher, with rough cheeks and ill-conditioned mind, and an injurious tongue. His main use of this tongue is to disparage Dr. Strong's young gentlemen. He says publicly that if they want anything, he'll give it 'em. He names individuals among them, myself included, whom he could undertake to settle with one hand and the other tied behind him. He waylays the smaller boys to punch their unprotected heads, and calls challenges after me in the open streets. For these sufficient reasons I resolve to fight the butcher. It is a summer evening. Down in a green hollow, at the corner of a wall, I meet the butcher by appointment. I am attended by a select body of our boys, the butcher by two other butchers, a young publican, and a sweep. The preliminaries are adjusted, and the butcher and myself stand face to face. In a moment, the butcher lights 10,000 candles out of my left eyebrow. In another moment, I don't know where the wall is, or where I am, or where anybody is. I am taken home in sad plight. I have had beefsteaks put on my eyes, and am rubbed with vinegar and brandy, and find a great white puffy place bursting out on my upper lip, which swells immoderately. Agnes is a sister to me, and condoles with me, and reads to me, and makes the time light and happy. She thinks I couldn't have done otherwise than fight the butcher, while she shrinks and trembles at my having fought him. Time has stolen on unobserved. For Adams is not the head boy in the days that come now, nor has he been this many and many a day. Adams has left the school so long, and there are not many there besides myself who know him. I am the head boy now. I look down at the line of boys below me with a condescending interest in such of them as bring to my mind the boy I was myself when I first came there. That little fellow seems to be no part of me. I remember him as something left behind upon the road of life. And the little girl I saw on the first day at Mr. Wickfield's, where is she? Gone also in her stead. Agnes, my sweet sister, as I call her in my thoughts, my counselor and friend, the better angel of the lives of all who come within her calm, good-denying influence. Within her calm, good, self-denying influence is quite a woman. What other changes have come upon me, besides the changes in my growth and looks, and in the knowledge I have garnered all this while? I wear a gold watch and chain, a ring upon my little finger, and a long-tailed coat, and I use a great deal of bear's grease, which, taken in conjunction with the ring, looks bad. Am I in love again? I am. Excuse me. I worship the eldest Miss Larkins. The eldest Miss Larkins is not a little girl. She is a tall, dark, black-eyed, fine figure of a woman. The eldest Miss Larkins is not a chicken, for the youngest Miss Larkins is not that, and the eldest must be 3 or 4 years older. Perhaps the eldest Miss Larkins may be 30. My passion for her is beyond all bounds. The eldest Miss Larkins knows officers. It is an awful thing to bear. I see them speaking to her in the street. I see them cross the way to meet her. When her bonnet, she has a bright taste in bonnets, is seen coming down the pavement, accompanied by her sister's bonnet, she laughs and talks, and seems to like it. I spend a good deal of my own spare time in walking up and down to meet her. If I can bow to her once in the day, I know her to bow to knowing Mr. Larkins, I am happier. I continually think about my age. Say I am 17, and say that 17 is young for the eldest Miss Larkins. What of that? Besides, I shall be 21 in no time almost. When I dress, the occupation of 2 hours for a great ball given at the Larkins, the anticipation of 3 weeks, I indulge my fancy with pleasing images. I picture myself taking courage to make a declaration to Miss Larkins. I picture Miss Larkins sinking her head upon my shoulder and saying, "Oh, Mr. Copperfield, can I believe my ears?" I picture Miss Larkins waiting on me next morning and saying, "My dear Copperfield, my daughter has told me all." I picture Mr. Larkins waiting on me next morning and saying, "My dear Copperfield, my daughter has told me all. Youth is no objection. Here are 20,000 pounds. Be happy." I picture my aunt relenting and blessing us, and Mr. Dick and Dr. Strong being present at the marriage ceremony. I am a sensible fellow, I believe. On looking back, and modest. I am sure, but all this goes on notwithstanding. I repair to the enchanted house, where there are lights, chattering, music, flowers, officers, I am sorry to see, and the eldest Miss Larkins, a blaze of beauty. She is dressed in blue, with blue flowers in her hair, forget-me-nots, as if she had any need to wear forget-me-nots. It is not the first really grown-up party that I have ever been invited to, and I am a little uncomfortable. It is the first really grown-up party that I have ever been invited to, and I'm a little uncomfortable, for I appear not to belong to anybody, and nobody appears to have anything to say to me except Mr. Larkins, who asks me how my schoolfellows are, which he needn't do, as I have not come there to be insulted. But after I have stood in the doorway for some time, and feasted my eyes upon the goddess of my heart, she approaches me, she, the eldest Miss Larkins, and asks me pleasantly if I dance. I stammer with a bow. With you, Miss Larkins? With no one else? Inquires Miss Larkins. I should have no pleasure in dancing with anyone else. Miss Larkins laughs and blushes, or I think she blushes, and says, Next time at 1, I shall be very glad. The time arrives. It is a waltz, I think. Miss Larkins doubtfully observes when I present myself. Do you waltz? If not, Captain Bailey, but I do waltz pretty well too, as it happens, and I take Miss Larkins out. I take her sternly from the side of Captain Bailey. He is wretched, I have no doubt, but he is nothing to me. I have been wretched too. I waltz with the eldest Miss Larkins. I don't know where, among whom, or how long. I only know I swim about in space with a blue angel in a state of blissful delirium until I find myself alone with her in a little room resting on a sofa. She admires a flower, pink camellia japonica, price ½ a crown, in my buttonhole. I give it her and say, I ask an inestimable price for it, Miss Larkins. Indeed, what is that? Returns Miss Larkins. A flower of yours that I may treasure as a miser does gold. You're a bold boy, says Miss Larkins. There. She gives it me, not displeased, and I put it to my lips, and then into my breast. Miss Larkins, laughingly, draws her hand through my arm and says, Now take me back to Captain Bailey. I am lost in the recollection of this delicious interview and the waltz when she comes to me again with a plain elderly gentleman who has been playing whist all night upon her arm and says, Oh, here is my bold fellow. Mr. Chestle wants to know you, Mr. Copperfield. I feel at once he is a friend of the family and am much gratified. I admire your taste, sir, says Mr. Chestle. It does you credit. I suppose you don't take much interest in hops, but I am a pretty large grower myself, and if you ever like to come over to our neighborhood and take run about our place, we shall be glad for you to stop as long as you like. I thank Mr. Chestle warmly and shake hands. I think I am in a happy dream. I waltz with the eldest Miss Larkins once again. She says I waltz so well, I go home in a state of unspeakable bliss, and waltz in imagination all night long with my arm round the blue waist of my dear divinity. Trotwood, says Agnes one day after dinner, who do you think is going to be married tomorrow? Someone you admire. Not you, I suppose, Agnes. Not me, raising her cheerful face from the music she is copying. Do you hear him, Papa? The eldest Miss Larkins. To Captain Bailey. I have just enough power to ask. No. To no captain, to Mr. Chestle, a hop grower. I am terribly dejected for about a week or two. I frequently lament over the late Miss Larkins' faded flower, being by that time rather tired of this kind of life, and having received new provocations from the butcher, I throw the flower away, go out with the butcher, and gloriously defeat him. And that is the end of chapter 18.